Hi, I'm Smatherini. As of recently, over the past couple of months, I have seen the issue of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is dying. This is mainly coming from YouTubers like MBT. Unfortunately, I cannot agree wholeheartedly. Yes, we are losing players. Yes, people are losing interest, especially with the newer sets not being worth a whole lot of money. The problem is, and I will say this now, Konami isn't doing enough for it to matter. It is Konami's main fault and prerogative. I'm gonna say just because everything I'm gonna say, and then they always say this big thing of, but Magic is selling, but Pokemon is selling. They're not those Pokemon cards and those Magic cards aren't selling because people care about the trading card game. They're selling because 40-year-old dudes living out of someone's basement or in a crappy apartment want to scalp them. They want to spend the hundreds and hundreds of dollars on these cheap pieces of cardboard. Therefore, they overinflate the price. It is not that the TCG is dying. It's not that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is dying. It's that Konami isn't advertising it in a reasonable way. And Pokemon gets all this publicity off of their cards being hyper value. The reason why these cards are so valuable is simply because of their set rotation. Set rotation is where for Magic it's 2 years, for you Pokemon it's 3 years. They're both owned by Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. The reason why all those cards get really valuable really quickly, by the way, they'll tank in value. Trust me, they tank in value unless they're still from the same year. Give like a year's time, those cards aren't going to hold a lot of value, or they'll have at least half of it. Trust me, I've looked this up on TCG Player. I have cards from around 2015 to 2019, around there, and some newer cards. You know how much they're worth? $0 to maybe $3. They are older printed cards. What's up with that? I thought all your cards magically retained all their value. I thought all their cards retained their value, but those don't. All those really cool full art cards don't retain their value. All the ones that are those textured full arts. Why don't they retain any of their value? But all the new stuff does, huh? I'll tell you why. Because when those cards released, they weren't targeted by scalpers or scalper value. And because no one can scalp them anymore, they don't hold any value. Where all of those other packs that everyone keeps talking about, how they're super expensive and super valuable, that's because they were released during the Pokemon and Magic scalper era. They're worth something because scalpers say they're worth something. If it wasn't for scalpers, your TCG would be going the same fucking way. And the claim of Master Duel is killing Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel ain't doing shit. It's just bringing people to the online space. It's no worse than Pokemon TCG Pocket. It's no worse than MTG Arena. They do the same thing. So why is it different for Yu-Gi-Oh? Because Konami's not doing enough to make the TCG worth it. So, how do we remedy this problem? What do we do? Konami, I get that you're doing the whole, here's the really cool story animation things that you're going to put on YouTube for like 2-minute ads for your TCG. That's great. Run them as ads, whether it be unskippable or not on YouTube. Run them as unskippable ads. Here's why. Listen up. The reason why is if you run them as unskippable ads, people are forced to watch them. People see, oh look, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. That is your best bet. But the other thing is, advertise your cards to kids. Make a new and if you really want, make those 2-minute story things into full-length episodes that cover large portions of the story. Put it on platforms like YouTube and Crunchyroll and Prime Video. Put them on these big-name platforms where kids watch. And make them rated for kids. Maybe not some of the, like, Tri Brigade story from... Or, no, you could probably do it. After all, the game is rated, like, 7+. So air it where kids will see it. Air it where teenagers will see it. Because especially on platforms like TikTok or Instagram, because the more they see it, the more it becomes a trend. Because if you do it right, it becomes an internet trend. Then people want to see it. The problem is you're not advertising your TCG enough, and that's mainly what's killing you. The other issue is stop reprinting everything. I do not care about your King of the Feral Imps reprint that you did in... Or not King of the Feral Imps. Still, the stupid $400... like, mass reprint, whatever, not $400, sorry. I'm scatterbrained a little bit today. Look, the big whole, like, let's reprint all these cards because people haven't acknowledged their existence. Trust me, if they're good in a deck, we'll go on TCG Player and we'll buy them. Trust me, you don't have to stuff your new packs full of the same old cards. And before any Pokemon or Magic players do their big gotcha, oh yes, they reprint the same cards. We have different ones. There are about 400,000 different versions of fucking Pikachu. 400,000 different types of Pikachu or Mewtwo or something. But this time the art's a little different and it's like it's got no borders. So it's better. No, it's not. It's just Mewtwo. The only reason why it's valuable is because, one, it released in a time where scalpers are really looking at products like that because they started making money thanks to people like Jake Paul making it a trend to open them for money. That's all it is. I'm going to say, and to come back to the whole waifu gacha thing, one, any adult female trainer or some of the newer male professors in Pokemon, the weird shit I've either seen on platforms like Reddit or heard people talk about anytime we get a new reveal of a new, like, gym leader or trainer or something of the adult variety in Pokemon. Hell, even sometimes the younger ones too, which is a whole other issue, and Pokemon's weird and the whole age change things that way. Whatever, not my prerogative, not my problem. I'm gonna say, they all look like anime waifus and husbandos. Because that's what the modern Pokemon players want. And I'm not even going to remotely go into the argument of Gardevoir and Lopunny and Vaporeon if you're weird. Because let's be honest here. Don't care. Those points have been talked to death. So if you really want to talk shit, go for it. Not to mention, Magic, you're not safe. Look at Final Fantasy. Look at Hatsune Miku. What is Hatsune Miku? She's an anime girl. In your Fortnite equivalent TCG. Your trading card game is the Fortnite made by EA variant of a trading card game. It's overexpensive. Everything has to be micro. Every new set has to be an extra micro purchase, except it's required to play the game. So, like EA or Ubisoft. And it's just a bunch of random collabs with IPs no one cares about except for the well, I would say not no one cares about. Honestly, I'd love to get some of the Hatsune Miku cards because I'm a fan of her music. But that's just because I'm a collector. Those would sit in a collection binder. Oh, and you keep complaining that all the new Yu-Gi-Oh cards become more humanoid. Magic's been doing that for years. Look at this. Look here. Humanoid. Yes, I know he's from Lord of the Rings. I could also show you Frodo, or I could go and find my Harold Angel or whatever she's called in my Commander deck, which, by the way, this is the only format I'll play for Magic because it relies on a ban list system and not a buy our new set because we said so, and if you don't, you can't play the TCG. That's the system I'm tired of seeing. And it gets really, really old. I want to get into things like Magic. I want to get into things like Pokemon. The availability of these cards and the prices of these cards make it hard to do. So, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is dying because scalpers don't go for it. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Is dying due to a lack of advertisement. It's dying because they keep reprinting stuff and making new sets. Therefore, they oversaturate the meta and everything around it with too much all at once. Cut back on the sets, maybe 3-ish a year. Make them really big with maybe 2 reprints per set. And go for the big, expensive cards that have been sitting at high prices for so long that they are becoming extremely unavailable to people. Think Chaos Angel, the Dominus cards. Go for big cards like that. Lacrima the Crimson Tears, the Fiendsmith card. Reprint her. She was reprinted in Rage of the Abyss, probably last year's best-selling set. How do I know it's last year's best-selling set? Because no matter where I go to a store called Vans Cards and Comics here in Colorado. You know what? He has packs of things like Infinite Forbidden. You know what released in Infinite Forbidden? Fiendsmith. One of the biggest meta deck pieces, especially at the start of this year. He has boxes on boxes of those. Rage of the Abyss, zip, nada. You want them? Go on eBay, pay the excess, pay like $100+ for it. That's the thing. Yu-Gi-Oh! Can still sell. It's that Konami is pumping out too much at once and reprinting too much at once. And Magic, before we get into it, you have at least 400 different variants of Counterspell for each color. I've seen it. And not to mention, I could probably go look it up and see how many reprints of just Counterspell alone you guys have, with different artworks. Hell, that's what Final Fantasy was. It's just reprints of pre-existing cards, but this time, guess what? They have Cloud on them. They have Tifa. I think her name's Tifa. I don't know. I haven't gotten around to playing Final Fantasy yet. I plan on it. I have a bunch of games, especially on here, that I need to complete beforehand, but I'll get to Final Fantasy eventually. Point being, Yu-Gi-Oh! is dying due to poor management and not being scalpable. That is the entire point. So all of you Yugi Doomers, whether it be MBT or the Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTuber with the clown skull get up, whatever. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is dying because Konami's not managing it properly or taking the proper precautions. It's just full gas, dump as much as possible. And before you complain about the gameplay, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is different, unique. We have our own play style. Our decks take strategy. And a lot of the newer ones are being built around not being able to be interacted with as much as possible, which shows that Konami has at least paid attention to that, which is a step in the right direction. Please, don't rag on Yu-Gi-Oh! Just yet. There's still hope. It's whether or not Konami wants to do something. I'm Smatherini, also known as Cinders of Hope, local Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan. Remember, it's not the number. It's not just about the big price. It's not just about the number of players at the YCS tournament. And it's not about Master Duel. After all, MTG Arena and Pokemon TCG Pocket and Pokemon Go still exist. So remember, be nice, be kind, and remember, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still around, it's still kicking. I'll see you in the next one. Like, share, and subscribe. Maybe tag MBT in the comments. I want him to react to this.